If you've made it this far, maybe this story touched something deep inside you, just like Ethan's unexpected journey. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this little town's magic can reach. And if this story warmed your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because tomorrow we'll return with another heartfelt tale that might just change the way you see love, life, or even yourself. Until then, stay inspired. Ethan Cole was always on the move. At 38, he was the CEO of a booming tech startup based in New York City, with a sleek corner office overlooking the skyline and a schedule so packed even his coffee breaks were timed. His days were measured in minutes, not moments. Success to Ethan had always been about control, knowing where he was going, how fast he could get there, and what came next. That morning was no different. He had just finished a high-stakes investor call and was rushing through Penn Station, briefcase in hand, mind buzzing with deadlines and decisions. His assistant had booked his ticket for the 9:45 express train to Philadelphia, where he was scheduled to speak at a tech summit. But in the chaos, crowds pushing, announcements echoing, and a mind cluttered with numbers, Ethan didn't notice the small sign above the platform. He boarded the wrong train. It wasn't until 20 minutes into the ride that he realized something. Felt off. The train was older, slower, with creaking floors and worn fabric seats. There were no businessmen with laptops, no constant pinging of email alerts, just a few scattered passengers, quietly enjoying the view of green fields rolling past the windows. Ethan frowned and pulled out his phone to check the route. No signal. Of a course, as the train rattled on, each passing mile pulled him farther away from the world he knew. Skyscrapers gave way to silos. Traffic noise faded into birdsong. Anxiety churned in his chest. This wasn't the express line. This was something else entirely. Nearly 2 hours later, the train screeched to a halt in a place Ethan had never heard of, Willow Creek, a tiny town nestled somewhere in rural Ohio. The platform was empty, save for a few locals chatting near a bench, and a rusty sign that read, "Welcome to Willow Creek, population 3,241. Ethan stepped off the train, his leather shoes clicking against the wooden boards of the platform. He looked around, hoping to see a cab, a shuttle, anything that could get him out of here. But the schedule posted beside the station made it painfully clear. No trains back to the city until 7:15 the next morning. Great, just great. He let out a frustrated sigh and loosened his tie. For the first time in years, Ethan was stuck. Truly stuck, with nothing to do, nowhere to be, and no signal to call anyone about it. The thought was both maddening and oddly freeing. He glanced at the town in front of him. Small shops lined the quiet street. There was a bakery, a bookstore, a little cafe with white chairs out front. The air smelled of fresh grass and something sweet, like cinnamon. Ethan took a breath, then another. Maybe, just maybe, this unplanned stop was more than just a mistake. Maybe it was the beginning of something he never saw coming. Ethan stood on the platform for a while, unsure of what to do next. There was no Uber, no signal, and no assistant to fix this mess for him, just the quiet hum of a town that seemed untouched by urgency. He checked his phone again. Still nothing. The corner of the screen mocked him. No service. With a sigh, he started walking. The main street of Willow Creek was straight out of another era. Cobblestone sidewalks, flower boxes on every window, and storefronts with hand-painted signs. He passed a hardware store where an elderly man was sweeping the front steps, and a post office with a bell above the door that jingled each time someone walked in. Everyone moved slowly. They smiled, waved at one another, even paused to talk. No one was glued to their phones or rushing to their next task. It was like time itself had decided to take a break here, and Ethan didn't know what to make of it. He checked his watch out of habit. 1:22 p.m. Normally, by this time, he'd be halfway through a board meeting, pitching projections or negotiating a deal worth 6 figures. Instead, he was wandering through a place where people seemed to care more about the weather than the stock market. He passed a small cafe called the Corner Cup. Its windows were fogged slightly, and the smell of fresh coffee and pastries drifted out onto the street. His stomach grumbled. He hadn't eaten since a protein bar on the train. Against his better judgment, he pushed the door open. A soft chime rang overhead. Inside it was warm, cozy even. Worn wooden tables, books stacked in the corners, and a chalkboard menu listing things like homemade apple pie and pumpkin spice latte. A young barista behind the counter looked up and greeted him like he was a regular. "Afternoon. You look like you've had a day." Ethan blinked, caught off guard by the genuine friendliness. "You could say that," he muttered, glancing around. No suits, no laptops, just locals chatting, laughing, reading. One woman was knitting. Knitting. In public. Like it was 1955. He sat at a corner table, unsure what to do with his hands. The quiet was uncomfortable. It wasn't that he disliked peace. It was just unfamiliar. In his world, silence usually meant something was wrong. Missed deadlines, dropped deals. But here? Here, silence just existed. No pressure, no agenda. As he stared out the window, something strange began to settle in his chest. A kind of stillness he hadn't felt in years. It was unnerving, like standing still on a moving train. He was used to speed, to pressure, to always thinking 3 steps ahead. Now, for the first time in a long time, there was nothing to chase, and maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. Just as the thought crossed his mind, he noticed someone. Outside, a woman standing near the bakery across the street. Long dark hair, simple dress, and a calmness that somehow made her stand out more than any luxury fashion piece ever could. Their eyes met for a moment. Ethan didn't know it yet, but that one glance was about to change everything. Ethan wasn't sure why he kept looking. Maybe it was the quiet curiosity in her eyes. Maybe it was the way she seemed completely at ease, like she belonged in this slow, sunlit town, like she was part of the rhythm he'd just started to notice. He caught himself staring again and quickly looked away, embarrassed by his own interest. But as fate would have it, that wouldn't be their only encounter. 10 minutes later, he stepped out of the cafe, warm cup of coffee in hand, and started wandering again. He didn't have a destination, just a growing sense that maybe this day was trying to tell him something. As he passed a small art shop with wide windows and colorful paintings hanging inside, he saw her again. She was standing by the door, talking to an older man who seemed to be giving her a hard time about a frame that wouldn't hold. She laughed, a soft, melodic sound that drifted out onto the sidewalk, and it hit Ethan harder than he expected. Something about her laugh made the world feel lighter. He almost walked past, but something pulled him back. "Excuse me," he said, his voice a little rougher than intended. "Can you help me? I'm, kind of lost." She turned to face him, eyebrows raised slightly but not in surprise, in amusement. "I figured," she said with a small smile. "You look like you belong in a glass tower, not here." Ethan chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "That obvious, huh?" She nodded. "Let me guess. Wrong train?" He blinked. "How did you—" Willow Creek doesn't get many strangers. When someone in a suit walks through town looking confused, word gets around fast. There was no judgment in her tone, only curiosity. A kindness in her voice that made him feel like maybe it was okay to admit the truth. "Yeah," he sighed. "Missed my train. Got stuck here until tomorrow morning. No signal, no ride. Not exactly how I pictured my Thursday." She glanced at the sky. "Well, lucky for you, it's a good day to be stuck. I'm Lily, by the way." "Ethan," he replied. "Nice to meet you." "Come on," she said, gesturing toward the sidewalk. "You need the grand tour." He hesitated, unsure why he was even considering it. But something in her tone, the way she spoke so easily without effort or expectations, made it hard to say no. As they began walking, Lily pointed out the local bakery that made the town's best cinnamon rolls, the park where she painted on, sunny afternoons, and the library that still used stamped cards to check out books. Ethan listened, genuinely interested for once in something that had nothing to do with market shares or revenue projections. Lily's world was slower, simpler, but somehow richer. And as they walked together through the heart of Willow Creek, Ethan began to feel like maybe, just maybe, this town wasn't just a wrong turn. Maybe it was the beginning of something he didn't even know he needed. As they strolled through the heart of Willow Creek, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that time had slowed down just for him. Lily walked beside him with a calm confidence, pointing out places that clearly held meaning. Her favorite coffee spot, the tree where she used to read as a kid, the small studio where she spent her afternoons painting. The way she spoke was different from what he was used to, genuine, unfiltered, like someone who wasn't trying to sell anything or impress anyone. They stopped outside a little antique store, its front window cluttered with vintage clocks and faded postcards. Lily turned to him, folding her arms loosely. "So, Ethan, from the city," she said with a playful smirk, "what exactly do you do when you're not getting stuck in small towns?" He chuckled lightly, looking down at the sidewalk. "I run a tech company, or more accurately, I let it run me." She raised a brow. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," he admitted. "Everyone thinks success means freedom. But the higher you climb, the less room you have to breathe. It's all deadlines, deals, pressure. Every second is accounted for." Lily nodded slowly, her expression softening. "And yet here you are, with nothing scheduled but time." Ethan glanced around. Children were riding bikes past the fountain. A couple laughed as they walked out of the bakery, holding hands and a bag of warm bread. No noise. No chaos. Just life. "I don't even remember the last time I had a full conversation without checking my phone," he muttered. "I used to think if I just worked harder, built more, pushed faster, eventually I'd feel happy." "Did it work?" Lily asked, her voice gentle. He paused. The truth settled heavily in his chest. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not even sure I know what happy looks like anymore." They sat on a bench outside the library, golden sunlight pouring. Over the quiet street, Lily didn't offer advice. She didn't try to fill the silence. She just listened, and in that moment Ethan realized how rare that was, how rare she was. In the city, everyone had an angle. Conversations were transactions, smiles were calculated, but Lily was present. She wasn't trying to fix him. She wasn't trying to pull him into her world. She was just there. "I've spent my whole life chasing things," Ethan finally said. "Titles, numbers, recognition. But none of it ever felt like enough. I don't even know what I'm chasing anymore." Lily looked at him, her eyes steady. "Maybe it's not about chasing. Maybe it's about noticing what's already here." Her words struck something deep inside him, something raw and long buried. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't thinking about his next move. He wasn't trying to calculate outcomes. He was just feeling, and it scared him, but it also made him feel more alive than he had in a very, very long time. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over Willow Creek. Long shadows stretched across the quiet streets as the town settled into its evening rhythm. Ethan and Lily walked without a set direction now, their footsteps slow, unhurried, and in sync, as if they'd been doing this for years. They turned onto a small trail that led to a park at the edge of town. It wasn't much, just a pond, a bench, a few trees swaying in the breeze, but it felt like the kind of place you could finally exhale. As they sat side by side, silence stretched comfortably between them. No small talk, no performance, just the kind of stillness that says more than words ever could. "You've been quiet," Lily finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded. "Just thinking. A lot." She looked at him, waiting. "I don't think I've ever stopped. Long enough to ask myself what I actually want," he admitted. "I've spent so much time building the life I thought I was supposed to live, chasing what everyone said mattered, the titles, the milestones, the wealth, but none of it made me feel this." Lily didn't speak right away. She watched the pond ripple as the wind moved across the water. "What do you feel now?" she asked gently. Ethan hesitated. Then, for the first time in what felt like years, he told the truth. "Peace," he said, "and scared, but mostly like I've found something real." Lily smiled, the corners of her eyes crinkling in the most genuine way. "That's the thing about peace," she said. "It sneaks up on you when you least expect it." He turned to her. "Do you ever wonder if you're missing out? Living in a place like this, she shook her head. Not once. I don't need the noise. I don't need the rush. I'd rather feel grounded than constantly chasing something that's always out of reach. Ethan leaned back on the bench, letting her words settle deep in his chest. Maybe he'd been measuring success with the wrong tools all along. Maybe the real prize wasn't a penthouse or a headline, but moments like this. Unplanned, undeniably human. As night fell, stars blinked into view overhead, more than he'd ever seen from his city apartment. The world felt wider here, and, for the first time, he wasn't afraid of that. You know, he said quietly, getting stuck here might have been the best thing that's ever happened to me. Lily glanced over, smiling. You weren't stuck. You just stopped running. He laughed softly. Yeah, maybe for the first time. And in that moment, with the night air around them, the stillness of the water, and a woman beside him who saw past the facade, Ethan knew he wasn't going back to who he was, because here, in this small town he never meant to find, he'd discovered something bigger than business, louder than success, and deeper than ambition. He had found himself. We hope this story left a mark on your heart, the way Willow Creek left a mark on Ethan's. Sometimes, life's most unexpected detours lead us exactly where we're meant to be, and now we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment like Ethan's, where everything slowed down and you suddenly saw life from a new perspective? Or maybe you visited a small town that made you feel something real, something peaceful. Share your story in the comments below. Whether it's a place, a person, or a moment that changed you, we want to hear it. And if you're watching from a cozy corner of the world, drop the name of your city or country too. It's always amazing to see how stories like these connect us across the globe. Your comments not only inspire us, but also build a community of people who believe in the power of simple, meaningful moments. So don't be shy. Write something from the heart. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, so you won't miss tomorrow's story. It might just be the reminder someone else needs exactly when they need it.